Imagine opening your eyes in a world where winter never truly ends. The air is so cold that every breath burns your lungs, the wind slices through your skin like a blade, and there isn't a single house, road, or city for thousands of miles. There are no warm jackets, no heaters, no grocery stores waiting around the corner, just endless plains of snow, towering walls of ice, and predators that see you as their next meal. Most of us wouldn't survive a single day in that world. Yet for thousands of years, ancient humans didn't just survive these impossible conditions. They built families, explored new lands, and slowly became the most successful species on the planet. The real mystery isn't how they endured the Ice Age. It's how they turned one of the harshest environments in Earth's history into a place they could call home. The Ice Age wasn't a single winter that came and went. It lasted for thousands of years, reshaping continents and changing the lives of every creature that lived through it. Gigantic glaciers stretched across the landscape, rivers froze solid, forests disappeared, and food became harder to find with every passing season. Survival depended on making the right decision every single day, because even one mistake could cost an entire group their lives. Ancient humans didn't have sharper claws than wolves or thicker fur than mammoths. They didn't run faster than cave lions or overpower giant bears. What they possessed was something far more powerful. They could observe, remember, learn, and improve. Every challenge became another lesson, and every lesson became knowledge passed from one generation to the next. Instead of trying to fight nature, they learned to work with it. They noticed that the ground beneath their feet stayed warmer than the freezing air above. By digging shallow shelters into hillsides or choosing naturally protected locations, they reduced the impact of freezing winds and trapped precious warmth. A small fire inside a sheltered space produced far more heat than the same fire exposed to open air. Without understanding physics in the modern sense, they mastered its principles through experience alone. Every shelter became an experiment, and every winter taught them how to build a better one before the next cold season arrived. Clothing became another incredible invention. Animal hides were no longer simple blankets thrown over the shoulders. Different furs served different purposes. Softer fur stayed close to the body to trap heat, while thicker hides protected against snow, wind, and moisture. Using carefully carved bone needles, ancient people stitched pieces together until their clothing fit closely enough to hold warm air inside. Suddenly, they weren't just wearing animal skins. They were carrying their own portable shelter wherever they traveled. This single innovation allowed hunting parties to venture farther into frozen landscapes and return safely with food that kept entire communities alive. But warmth alone wasn't enough. They also needed food, and the animals roaming the frozen plains were enormous. Mammoths, giant bison, woolly rhinoceroses, and reindeer outweighed humans many times over. Charging directly at these giants would have been suicide. Instead, ancient hunters relied on patience and teamwork. Days before a hunt even began, they watched animal movements, studied footprints pressed into frozen ground, and memorized migration routes. They understood where herds gathered, where rivers forced them to slow down, and where narrow valleys could become natural traps. When the moment finally arrived, every hunter knew exactly where to stand. Some guided the herd while others waited in carefully chosen positions. Success came not from strength, but from planning, communication, and trust. Every successful hunt provided far more than meat. Fat became fuel for fires during long winters. Bones were shaped into tools, needles, fishing hooks, and spear points. Thick hides became clothing and shelter. Tendons turned into strong cords for tying equipment together. Even the smallest pieces found a purpose because wasting resources in the Ice Age could mean starving before spring arrived. Ancient humans saw value where most people today would see nothing at all. They transformed every part of an animal into something useful, ensuring that one hunt supported the community for weeks instead of days. Fire became the heart of every camp, but keeping it alive was far more difficult than simply striking a spark. In many frozen regions, dry wood was rare, so people learned to burn whatever nature offered. Animal fat, Dried grasses and even carefully prepared dung became dependable sources of fuel. A fire wasn't allowed to burn carelessly. It was protected from the wind, fed slowly, and treated as the difference between life and death. Around its glow, hunters repaired weapons, parents cared for children, elders passed on knowledge, and entire communities planned for the days ahead. Every evening became a classroom where experience was shared long before books or written language ever existed. As winters grew harsher, shelters became more sophisticated. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence that some Ice Age communities built circular homes using massive mammoth bones as strong frameworks. Thick animal hides stretched across these structures helped block icy winds, while layers of grass, moss, and earth added insulation. Inside, even a modest fire could create a surprisingly comfortable space compared to the freezing world outside. These homes were not random piles of bones. They reflected planning, engineering, and countless generations of trial and error. Ancient builders understood that surviving winter wasn't about making the biggest fire. It was about preventing precious heat from escaping in the first place. Food presented another challenge. A successful hunt could provide more meat than a group could eat before it spoiled, but the freezing climate itself offered a solution. Snow, ice, and permanently frozen ground acted like natural freezers. Meat was stored where predators couldn't easily reach it, allowing families to survive weeks of terrible weather without risking dangerous hunts. Some foods were dried or smoked near the fire, reducing moisture and making them last even longer. Every meal represented careful planning because nobody knew when the next opportunity to hunt would arrive. Survival also depended on cooperation. No single person could build shelters, hunt giant animals, gather fuel, care for children, and watch for predators alone. Every member of the group had a role. Experienced hunters led expeditions, skilled craftspeople repaired clothing and tools, while elders shared memories of changing seasons, dangerous routes, and reliable hunting grounds. That knowledge was priceless. Forgetting where water remained unfrozen or where herds usually migrated could mean disaster for everyone. Intelligence wasn't measured by how strong someone was, but by how much they could contribute to the survival of the community. The Ice Age also shaped the human mind in unexpected ways. Long nights spent together encouraged storytelling, songs, and shared traditions. Stories carried practical lessons hidden inside memorable adventures, teaching younger generations where danger waited and how courage, patience, and cooperation could overcome impossible odds. Around those fires, humans strengthened something even more important than their shelters. They strengthened the bonds that held their communities together. Trust became a survival tool, just as valuable as a spear or a warm coat. When the climate slowly warmed and the glaciers retreated, many of these extraordinary techniques faded because they were no longer essential. Forests returned, new resources became available, and people adapted once again. Yet the ingenuity developed during those frozen ages never truly disappeared. The ability to solve problems, prepare for the future, and work together remained part of who we are. Every insulated home, every carefully planned expedition, and every emergency survival technique used today reflects the same principles our ancestors discovered thousands of years ago through determination and observation. It's easy to look back at Ice Age humans and imagine them as primitive people struggling against nature. The evidence tells a very different story. They were inventors, engineers, explorers, and planners who faced challenges that would overwhelm most modern people. Without machines, electricity, or written science, they mastered heat, clothing, shelter, hunting, and food preservation using only the materials around them. Their greatest weapon was never a spear or a fire. It was the human ability to learn faster than the environment could defeat them. The next time you close your front door on a cold winter evening or adjust the temperature in your home without giving it a second thought, remember that comfort is built on thousands of years of human innovation. Long before cities, technology, or civilization, our ancestors proved that intelligence could overcome even the coldest place on Earth. They didn't simply survive the Ice Age, they transformed it into the foundation of everything humanity would eventually become.